What reveals the people who secretly hate you? The shadow of hatred. Hatred is an unavoidable part of human existence, a force that shapes relationships, society, and even history. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to despise you despite your best intentions? Is it your actions that provoke them, or is there something deeper at play? Imagine walking into a room filled with people. Some greet you warmly, others avoid your gaze, and a few wear polite smiles while their words contain an unspoken edge. In the teachings of Zen and Buddhism, hatred is not merely an external force but a reflection of inner turmoil. It is like a shadow that cannot exist without light. Those who despise you are often revealing more about themselves than about you. Through this exploration, we will uncover 7 key signs of hidden or overt hatred and the wisest ways to respond. By understanding these signs, you will learn not only how to identify those who harbor negativity toward you but also how to rise above their influence without allowing their bitterness to corrupt your heart. But first, let's begin with a powerful story of a man who walked the path of wisdom and encountered hatred along the way. Chapter 1. The Path of Wisdom and the 7 Signs of Hatred. 1. They smile at you, but their words cut like knives. Once, a wise man traveled from village to village, offering guidance and kindness to all who sought it. One day, a merchant approached him, his face adorned with a broad smile. "You have done well for yourself," he said, "but are you truly as wise as they claim?" The man, sensing the insincerity in the merchant's tone, simply smiled. The merchant continued, "Some people pretend to be good, but deep down, they are not." Though the words seemed harmless, there was poison beneath them. Hatred often wears a mask of politeness. Some people despise you but do not wish to be seen as hateful. So they lace their words with subtle jabs designed to plant doubt and undermine you. The wise man observed the merchant for a moment and then replied, "A scorpion, when it stings, does not apologize. A snake, when it strikes, does not hide its fangs. Yet, among humans, deception is refined. The most dangerous enemy is not the one who openly confronts you but the one who smiles as they strike." The merchant laughed. "Surely, words are just words," he said. "They carry no blade, they spill no blood. How can they cause harm?" The wise man picked up a small stone and held it in his palm. "If I throw this at you, will you feel pain?" "Of course," the merchant replied. "And if I throw 100 stones, small and light, one after another?" The merchant hesitated. "Eventually, I suppose, the pain would become unbearable." "Precisely," the wise man said. "Words may not wound like a sword, but spoken with ill intent, they cut just as deep. A single stone is tolerable, but repeated blows leave scars. A single word of doubt is easy to ignore, but repeated whispers can crumble even the strongest foundation of self-belief." The merchant's smile faded. He shifted uncomfortably. "The world is full of people who will say kind words while secretly hoping for your downfall." The wise man continued, "They will smile at you, but their eyes will betray them. They will praise you, yet plant seeds of insecurity within your heart. Such is the nature of insincere kindness. It is a blade concealed within silk." The merchant lowered his gaze. "How, then, should one protect themselves from such deception?" The wise man responded, "Do not let the words of others define your worth. Learn to see beyond the surface of politeness. Trust your intuition. It often senses insincerity before the mind does. And most importantly, cultivate inner strength so that no amount of whispered doubt can shake the truth of who you are." At that moment, the merchant understood. The true danger was not in words alone but in allowing them to take root within the soul. And so, the wise man continued his journey, leaving behind not just words but wisdom, deep enough to shield against even the sharpest of smiles. 2. They celebrate your failures more than their own success. As the wise man continued his journey, he met a scholar known for his knowledge and prestige. The scholar had always dismissed the wise man's insights. But one day, when the man failed in a difficult task, the scholar whispered to others, "See, he is not as wise as you think." The word spread like wildfire. The wise man noticed how quickly people were eager to believe in his shortcomings. Though they had once praised his wisdom, he smiled, not in bitterness, but in understanding. A tree full of ripe fruit is struck by the most stones. He thought to himself. Some people take pleasure in seeing others stumble, not because they gain anything from it, but because they fear being surpassed. Their joy does not come from their own accomplishments but from watching others fall. Such people measure their worth not by their own growth but by how much they can diminish someone else. A disciple approached the wise man and asked, "Why do people delight in another's failure?" The wise man picked up a clay cup filled with water and tilted it slightly. "If I spill some water from this cup, does it make the ocean fuller?" "Of course not," the disciple replied. "Yet, in the minds of the envious, it does. They believe that diminishing others elevates them. They see another's rise as their own decline. So they rejoice in failures that do not belong to them. Instead of cultivating their own success, they find comfort in the misfortunes of others." The disciple pondered for a moment, then asked, "How should one deal with such people?" The wise man smiled. "You must understand that their joy is empty. It does not nourish them, nor does it harm you unless you allow it. Walk your own path, measure your progress by your own growth, and never seek validation from those who secretly hope for your downfall." The scholar continued to whisper, but the wise man paid no attention. He knew that the strongest tree withstands the most winds, and the brightest light casts the longest shadows. True success is not in proving doubters wrong but in walking forward, unshaken by their whispers. 3. They imitate you while mocking you. The wise man noticed something peculiar. Those who once dismissed him as a fool were now imitating his words, gestures, and even his style of dress. At first, he found it amusing. Those who had ridiculed his way of thinking now spoke his words as if they were their own. One young noble, who had openly laughed at him in the past, suddenly began teaching similar philosophies. He repeated the wise man's insights with great confidence, never once acknowledging their source. When confronted about it, the noble scoffed and waved his hand dismissively. "I have always known these things," he claimed. "There is nothing new in them." The wise man smiled but said nothing. He had seen this before. Those who belittle wisdom often do so not because they reject it, but because they fear the one who carries it. Hatred is often intertwined with envy. Some despise you because they wish to be you. A disciple, observing this, asked, "Why do people mock what they secretly admire?" The wise man took a handful of sand and let it slip through his fingers. If a man sees another carrying gold, he might laugh and say, "That is only dust," but if he secretly desires it, he will one day collect dust himself, hoping to turn it into gold. The disciple furrowed his brow. "But if they admire you, why not just learn from you openly?" "Because to admit admiration is to acknowledge one's own lack," the wise man replied. "Pride will not allow them to say, 'I was wrong about you.' So instead, they laugh, they mock, they pretend they have always known. They wear the mask of superiority to hide the truth, that they have been a student all along." The disciple nodded in understanding. Then how should one respond? With silence, the wise man said, "Do not waste time proving what is already evident. The truth does not need defense. A candle does not argue with the darkness, it simply shines." And so, the wise man continued his path, undisturbed by the whispers of those who, in secret, walked behind him, tracing his every step. 4. They support you only when you are weak. During difficult times, the wise man found that people who once ignored him now came forward with offers of help. They spoke kind words, extended gestures of generosity, and assured him of their unwavering support. But as time passed, he began to see the truth. This kindness was not rooted in genuine goodwill but in something far more fragile: control. Their assistance came with invisible strings. As long as he remained beneath them, in need of their help, they welcomed him, but the moment he regained strength, the moment he stood tall on his own, they withdrew. Some even grew resentful, as if his recovery had robbed them of something valuable. A disciple, observing this, asked, "Why do people turn away when one begins to rise?" The wise man picked up a small bird that had fallen from its nest. When it is weak, many hands reach out to help. They take pride in their kindness, in the power they hold over something fragile. Then, he opened his hand, allowing the bird to spread its wings and fly. But when it learns to soar, those same hands remain still. They do not rejoice in its strength, because they never truly wanted it to fly. The disciple pondered this. So their support was never about lifting another up? The wise man shook his head. No, some do not want to see you rise. They only wish to keep you dependent. Their kindness fades when it no longer serves them, but true compassion seeks nothing in return. It does not fear another's strength, it celebrates it. And with that, the wise man continued his journey, no longer burdened by the weight of conditional kindness. 5. They twist your words and actions. One day, the wise man helped a struggling farmer carry his heavy load. His only intention was kindness. Yet when the story spread, people whispered, "He only did it for admiration. He seeks praise, not virtue." Another time, as he sat in silence while being insulted, others murmured, "See, he had no wisdom to reply. If he were truly wise, he would have answered." On yet another occasion, when he corrected a mistaken belief with gentle reasoning, some sneered, "He only wishes to appear superior." But when he chose to say nothing, they scoffed, "He has nothing to offer." A disciple, disheartened by these distortions, asked, "Master, why do people twist the truth?" The wise man picked up a clear bowl of water and poured ink into it. Truth is like water, pure and clear, but when tainted by resentment, envy, or hatred, it becomes murky. People do not always see things as they are, but as they wish to believe. The disciple asked, "Then what should one do?" "Nothing," the wise man replied. "Live by your truth, no matter what you do. Those who despise you will always find a way to twist your intentions. If you seek their approval, you will forever be a prisoner of their judgment. Let your actions speak for themselves, and let time reveal what words have tried to obscure." And so, the wise man continued his journey, undisturbed by the noise of those who saw only what they wanted to see. 6. They keep you close but only to control you. As the wise man's reputation grew, a ruler invited him to his court, offering him gifts, lavish praise, and a place of honor. Courtiers bowed in respect, musicians played in his welcome, and golden robes were laid before him. But the wise man saw through the illusion. The ruler did not seek wisdom, he sought ownership of it. He did not wish to learn from the wise man but to keep him close. To bind his knowledge within the palace walls, where it could be controlled, shaped, and used to serve his power. One evening, the ruler said, "Stay with me, and I will grant you lands and treasures beyond measure." The wise man smiled, "A bird in a golden cage is still caged. I prefer the open sky." The ruler's expression darkened. "If you refuse my generosity, do you mean to insult me?" "True generosity seeks nothing in return," the wise man replied. The ruler's kindness turned to resentment. The praise became whispers of discontent. "He is ungrateful," they murmured. "He thinks himself above the throne." And soon, the same voice that once welcomed him now sought to silence him. A disciple asked, "Master, why do they first lift a man up only to cast him down?" The wise man picked up a vessel of water and slowly clenched his fist around it. They do not lift him to honor him. They lift him so that, when they tighten their grip, they believe he will have no choice but to remain. The water slipped through his fingers. But wisdom is like water, it cannot be held by force. And what should one do when offered a golden cage? The disciple asked. Remain free, the wise man answered, for what is given with the intent to control is never a gift, but a chain in disguise. And so, the wise man walked away, leaving behind not just the ruler's court, but the illusion of power disguised as kindness. 7. They pretend to forget your kindness but never forget your mistakes. Despite all the good the wise man had done, people quickly forgot his kindness but never let go of his smallest mistakes. He had helped countless individuals, offering guidance, easing burdens, and bringing comfort to the suffering. Yet, the moment he erred, that was all they spoke of. A villager he once saved from ruin now whispered, perhaps he was never truly wise. A merchant whose business he had rescued scoffed. Even the so-called enlightened stumble. No one mentioned his years of service, his sacrifices, or the countless times he had given without asking in return. A disciple, troubled by this, asked, Master, why do people cling to mistakes but let kindness slip away? The wise man picked up a flawless white cloth and placed a single black dot in the center. What do you see? He asked. The black dot, the disciple replied. And not the vast whiteness around it? The wise man smiled. Hatred does not balance kindness and flaws equally. It magnifies imperfection while erasing 1,000 good deeds. But a good man does not seek remembrance, he simply continues to do good, whether it is remembered or not. And so, he walked on, unshaken by the fleeting nature of human gratitude. Chapter 2. The Zen Approach to Dealing with Hatred. 1. Recognizing hatred without reacting. Each of these 7 signs is not a reflection of you but of the other person's insecurities. Jealousy, or unresolved emotions. Hatred is rarely about the one it is directed at. It is a mirror of the hater's inner turmoil. A wise person does not engage in battles that do not serve them. Instead of reacting with anger, they observe and continue their journey, understanding that hatred is like a fire, it only grows when fed. A disciple once asked his master, "What should I do when others despise me for no reason?" The master picked up a cup of tea and placed it before the disciple. If someone offers you this tea but you do not accept it, to whom does it belong? To the one who offered it, the disciple replied. Exactly, said the master. Hatred is a gift you do not have to accept. By recognizing hatred without reacting to it, one removes its power, it remains with the one who carries it. 2. The mirror of hatred. A Zen saying states, "The world is a mirror. What you see is a reflection of yourself." Those who hate you are not truly reacting to you. They are exposing their own struggles. A man once approached the Buddha, shouting insults and accusations, yet, the Buddha remained still, unshaken. The man, confused, asked, "Why do you not react?" The Buddha smiled and said, "If someone brings you a gift and you do not take it, to whom does it belong?" The man answered, "To the giver." Then so it is with anger and hatred. I do not accept them, so they remain yours. When others project their anger and bitterness onto you, understand that it is their burden to carry, not yours. Their hatred is a reflection of their own suffering, not your actions. 3. Transforming hatred into compassion. The greatest challenge is to transform resentment into understanding and understanding into compassion. A wise person does not waste energy proving their worth. Instead, they cultivate kindness, not because others deserve it, but because hatred cannot survive in the presence of true understanding. A monk once lived next to a man who hated him. The man would curse at him daily, trying to provoke a reaction. Yet, the monk would simply smile and continue his work. One day, the man demanded, "Why do you not respond to my insults?" The monk replied, "If a man comes to give you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does it belong?" The man fell silent. From that day forward, his hatred lost its meaning. When you meet hatred with kindness, you disarm it. The cycle of resentment breaks not through retaliation, but through the refusal to participate in it. 4. When to let go and walk away. Not all battles are worth fighting. Knowing when to walk away is a sign of wisdom, not weakness. A wise person does not stay where they are not valued nor seek approval from those who resent them. A fisherman once tried to sail against a storm, determined to prove his strength, but the wind tore his boat apart, and he barely survived. The next time the storm came, he stayed on shore and let it pass. This time, he remained unharmed. Some storms are not meant to be fought. Some people will never see your worth, no matter what you do. Walking away is not losing, it is choosing peace over unnecessary conflict. 5. Finding peace within yourself. The ultimate lesson is that hatred cannot touch a person who is at peace with themselves. The wise man in our story did not spend his life fighting those who hated him. He simply continued on his path. He lived by truth regardless of how others responded. A disciple once asked his master, "How do I protect myself from the hatred of others?" The master pointed to the sky and said, "If someone throws mud at the sky, does it reach the heavens?" The disciple shook his head. "No, it falls back to the ground." "Then be like the sky," the master said, "high above the reach of hatred." True peace comes not from changing the minds of others, but from standing firm in your own truth. When you are at peace within, no external force can disturb you. And so, the wise continue their journey, not weighed down by the resentment of others, but lifted by the serenity that only inner wisdom can bring. Conclusion. The choice is yours. Hatred will always exist in the world. It moves like the wind, unseen yet felt, carrying whispers of envy, resentment, and misunderstanding. But whether it enters your heart, that is your choice. A wise man once said, "You cannot stop the birds of sorrow from flying over your head, but you can prevent them from building a nest in your mind." Hatred, like a flame, only survives when it is fed. The more attention you give it, the stronger it grows. But if you refuse to fuel it, if you meet it with silence, wisdom, or even compassion, it withers, powerless. You may not control how others see you, but you always control how you respond. Do you absorb their bitterness and let it change you? Or do you rise above, untouched by their shadows? So choose wisely, choose peace, not for them, but for yourself.